Okay, this here is Fidel. We had to get him on camera. We can't just have videos of the playroom without the dog in it. Now he's chewing on a bully stick. These are great things to have. These are what I call chewables. Now a lot of people give their dogs rawhides. I'm not a fan of rawhides. Once I found out how they're prepared, my friends at the Green Spot explained to me that they're actually dunked in ammonia, a lot of chemicals that they wash them in, and because the dog actually ingests this, that can actually lead to a lot of health issues. So this is a bully stick. This is actually a tip of a bully stick, which are a little bit more expensive, but much, much better for the dog to have. Now, in this video, I want to talk about chewing specifically. Now, for my dog, my puppy Quest last summer, one of the things I learned is if you get your dog in a habit of chewing and getting its food out of toys that dispense treats, it really gives the dog an incentive to chew those items. So instead of feeding the dog out of a bowl, which you can certainly do, I would rather get extra value or get extra work done by just simply feeding him out of the toys. Now, I will probably have a link on this underneath or above this video to the page on Quest Ed where I talk about feeding out of toys. I'm going to talk about a lot of the same stuff, but it'll have a link to some of the toys that I use. Now, if the dog has to work for its food, that gives it a job. Now, in the wild, dogs spend 90% of their time looking for food, so it's the primal drive of their existence. If we put food in a little bowl, they're like, what do I do with the other 89% of my time? So this will make make the dog feel better about it because he's earning it himself, kind of similar to a hunt. So you have a sense of pride, which will boost your dog's confidence. That's very helpful on a regular basis. It also takes them longer to eat. So if you see a lot of puppies, they just like wolf everything down. They try to eat it so fast, sometimes they get bloat or problems. Well, it's because they're just no control. And it's just a whole bunch of it there. What I like to do, I have one that looks like a giant golf ball, and you put the treats in, and the dog has to roll it just right for a couple pieces of kibble to fall out. Then they scoop it off the floor, and then they nudge the golf ball again. I have one that looks like a weight, a dumbbell, so they have to flip it end over end. I have one that is more of that's a star that you have to spin, and there's little trays full of food in there. So I'd like the guardian to get in the habit of feeding him in that puppy playroom that we have in the above video, and for all meals until he's about 5 or 6 months old. This means that every dog toy is looked at as like a little slot machine that can distribute a lot of, instead of getting coins, they get treats. And this helps them really focus and zero in on the appropriate things to chew on, not the inappropriate things to chew on. So I'd really recommend doing that. Now, one other thing I want to talk about, so we talk about chewing, I'm going to talk about some ways to prevent your dog from nipping and chewing. Although some of the nipping and chewing you kind of want to have happen, it sounds kind of a little counterintuitive. But this is a chewy, and I'm going to talk a little bit about resource guarding because we're talking about food as well. Resource guarding is a really serious condition. It's not aggression, but it looks very aggressive, where if the dog has possession of something and you try to take it, it will absolutely bite you. Now, once the item's gone, they're totally accommodating and very comfortable. So if I hold this, it's mine. If I hold it and let him have it, it's his. If I hold on to it when he's chewing it, it's ours. So I'd like to get the guardian to get in a habit of holding on to things like this, letting him chew on them, and of course I don't have a treat handy, but normally I would have a treat here for this exercise. And while he has one of these things, I'm going to hold the treat right here. When he drops it, I'm going to pop, or stops chewing it, I'm going to pop the treat in his mouth and say the word drop. And then I'm going to let him go back to chewing it. Now, resource guarding is pretty, if we're in the wild and if you're in a plane crash and you're on a desert island and you're starving for food, and it's you and one other guy off the plane, you have your own camps, and we find a chicken and kill the chicken, and the other guy comes over and tries to take your chicken, you're going to guard your resource as well. So that's kind of where this comes from. Now, if a dog is chewing something and somebody comes near it and he growls, a lot of people think that's resource guarding. That's not. It's appropriate for a dog to say, hey, back off, this is mine, I'm eating it. And that's kind of a conversation. So a lot of people think of a growl as aggression. It's really the antithesis of aggression. It's trying to warn and stop it before it happens. So one of the things I like to do, I use marrow bones for these, which are actual real bones filled with marrow. You can get them at great places like the Green Spot. For him, I'd like to get 1-inch marrow bones. And what I do is, they're frozen, keep them frozen until he's using them. So at first what I do is I'm practicing the drop before I even use the marrow bones. So every time he has any of his chew toys, not an ingestible one like this, but just a rope or a Kong or a ball or anything, and he's just content chewing on it, walk over there, hold the treat against his nose, or right in front of his nose. He'll try to take it with the object in his mouth. Don't say anything, wait. As soon as he drops it, pop it in his mouth and say the word drop after it goes in his mouth. Don't pick the item up. And then once he gets done chewing the treat, he'll go back to the item and you can walk away. You want to establish this pattern of behavior with what we call low value items, which are the things that he's allowed to have at any point. This is a higher value item because this is the first time he's ever had one of these. And he's like, this is great chewing. I don't want to give this up because this is precious to me. So you want to start this with stuff that's not precious, the toys that he has access to all the time. You want to get to the point and practice it. You know, in practice, maybe a goal should be maybe 10 to 20 times a day. Just walk over to the treat, and eventually he'll just drop whatever and immediately get the treat. What you're saying is when a human approaches you, they're not here to take your stuff. They're going to make your situation better. So once your dog has a good solid drop, which can take about a week to 2 weeks to establish, the next thing is when he has something like this, then I might go over and hold it. I might start off with holding it. So he's chewing on it, I go like this. As soon as he stops chewing on it, I pop it in his mouth, say the word drop. Now this is a little bit more desirable, so it's less apt for him to drop it. So the first couple times we help him by holding on to it. That way it's ours and not just his. And what we teach him, even though it's a great high value item, if you drop it, the human's gonna make your situation better and you get the item again. So that's what I would do and use bully sticks for the next stage. First we teach with low value items, then we practice the drop with high value items. Then I would practice with the marrow bones. Now the marrow bones, I'd probably do this in the puppy play area that we showed in the above video. Now for the marrow bones, you can let him lick on it at first by himself, but he's gonna probably pick it up and go to the side of the room. That's why I would do it in that puppy play area so he can't go too far away. And basically what I do for that one is that a lot of times I prefer to do it like this, where I'm holding it, let him chew on it, and then I hold the item up. He drops, I pop it in his mouth, and then I let him chew on it again. You want to do that for maybe one marrow bone every other day. They're pretty rich, so you want to and give them two of these early in the day. The marrow is pretty rich, it might give him diarrhea. If your dog does get diarrhea, canned pumpkin, a scoop of canned pumpkin with a dry kibble will firm up the stool. So once your dog has done this maybe every other day for about 3 to 5 days with the marrow bone while you're holding it the whole time, the next step would be do it, and then you would give the dog the marrow bone, hold the treat here, and the dog theoretically should drop it because you've established this behavior by practicing it over and over. If the dog doesn't, then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll hold it, but I won't actually don't pull it away. And I would hold the treat again. Now the marrow bone's gonna be higher desire, so he might not wanna drop it right away. Just keep on holding it. As soon as he does, pop that treat in his mouth. You wanna keep on practicing this now. Now at this age, he has very sharp teeth, but he does not have very strong jaws. That's why Mother Nature gives him the sharp teeth. You really want to establish this before the dog, teaching the dog to drop before it develops strong muscle bones. So this is basically, so the first part of this video is talking about feeding your dog and the benefit of feeding it out of toys. Second part of this video is to help prevent a real dangerous problem you don't want to deal with later in life, preventing resource guarding.